Hi there, Sandra here from Create in Spain. Today I wanted to explain to you why I often use Procreate on my iPad when I want to do print and cuts and things like that for use on my cutting machine. Often I use Concepts because Concepts is very precise and I like to use it when I'm just doing line drawings. But if I'm doing colouring of any description, I tend to use Procreate because it has more masking tools and I just like the way that it works. And also you have multicolour brushes. More on that a little later. When it comes to drawing in Procreate, it is much the same as any other app that you might have come across on your laptop or your desktop, in that it has an awful lot of features. I'm going to do just a basic line drawing. Whoops, that's a very strange looking leaf shape, but never mind. It's only for demonstration purposes. So I have my leaf drawn. Now if I look at the layer, I've got just the one layer and that's it. Now I am very inclined when I work to duplicate that layer and to keep that layer as a spare. So working on this layer, I can switch that one off so it's not going to be an issue. Now if I want to colour this, I've got a lot of options in Procreate. If I just wanted to take that and print it and cut around it, then I could put it into Trace software, or I could put it through the scanner in the Scan and Cut and I can just do an outside cut. Or indeed, if I've made that line thicker, I could do an inside cut as well, depending on what I've drawn. But we're talking about the ability to add colour and effects to whatever it is that you want to do. On my layers, you can see that this layer is showing up with just the line and grey, and that's because there isn't actually any fill in that leaf. If I were to change this to a different colour just so that you can see it, if I tap on the colour and drag it in, come on, change to red. Tap on it to drag it in, you can see I've now got a colour fill and it shows up on there. But it didn't beforehand because I'd only drawn the line. So don't make the mistake of thinking that you've drawn a line and the inside of it is filled, because for masking purposes, it isn't. If I want to, I can choose to have that as a reference layer. If I take this, delete this one, put that one back, and I can have this as a reference layer. I can add another layer to it and I can do that, and you think it's filled, but what it's done is my line is still separate and this is my fill, but it acts as though that is actually masked off, and that is a really handy function to have. So I can go over this with a different colour if I want. I think I probably prefer a greeny colour. There we go. And now I want to add some kind of effects or patterns to it, but maybe I'm not sure I want to keep them. So I can add another layer. I can make this one a clipping mask. Now this means that only that green area is going to get painted on when I put my next colour on. To demonstrate that, I will go to multicolour and I'm going to pick up some confetti, I think. This is my confetti brush. I'll go into the menu for that later. And I'm going to change the base colour for that as well. And now when I go on here, ooh, what fun. And there's so many different brushes in here already that I could have a whale of a time without even making any. But you can make your own brushes and it's easy to do. It's also addictive, great fun, and I can spend hours making brushes. Right, so that is one way of masking. Okay, I am going to go to my layers. I'm going to delete that one because for this next bit it's going to be easier for you to see if we just have the plain colour. So I'm working on this one layer. I'm not working on the line, okay? And to make it even easier, I'm just going to switch off that line so you don't see it. It's still there, I can still have it. I can move the layer above this green layer if I want to, but it's just not going to show. If I have a traditional need of masking, I can go to this ribbon, or the S shape as it looks like, and there's a masking menu that will come up, and I tap on here and you can see a mask has been put in place. So I now go to my brush and you can see that that area is masked and the background can be painted on. If I go back in here and I do that and I invert it, it will mask off the opposite way, and you can see that the mask is all around there and I can paint on the leaf. So you can do your traditional masking. I could also, if I wanted to, tap on the leaf and do it that way. Now, if you've got a very simple shape like this, the method that I did before with the reference layer and the clipping mask works really well. But if you've got something more complicated, then you might want to use the actual mask tools under there. It's a matter of preference and how easy you find it to cope with the different layers and the different ways of working with them with those options. Here we have a slightly more complicated image. This is one that I've imported from Pixabay, and sometimes we want to do things with images that we found elsewhere. We just don't necessarily want to use the images straight away as they are. Now this is great if you want to do a card front or a page for your scrapbook or something like that, but you don't just want this plain white background or anything of that nature. So you can use the masking function by tapping on this S or this funny ribbon shape piece here. You tap on here and you get a mask, and then you can invert the mask if you so wish. And if you do that, you will be able to paint just on the baubles. If you don't invert it, you'll be painting on the background. Now the other thing that you have with this particular piece of software are some effects. One of the ones that I do really like is noise. Now this is something that you don't normally want on your photographs, but at times it can be handy. And if I slide this across here, you'll see, hopefully the camera is picking it up, that this kind of looks all dotted and not blurred, but not even pixelated. It's kind of dotted. And this gives kind of like a glitter look, which can be fun if you're printing on photographic card, for example. Can give you quite a good look. There are other effects too. Some of them you wouldn't find too useful on actual objects, but for a background you might do. Liquify, for example, is great fun. Whee. Those are really fun things to do. Making your own brushes is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. So if I go to the brushes here and I go to spray paints, tap on the plus, and here I'm going to make my own personal brush. Great fun. So the first thing that I want to do is adjust the spacing slightly so that I can see my individual objects. So you can see this one was already made out of circles, but I'm not going to keep it to that. The next one I'm going to go to is shape. Now this is the shape source. As you can see, there are circles, that's the shape source. I edit that, and apart from the fact that I can import anything I've drawn myself, I can import from the library, the source library. And I want, I think I'll go for that one. I think that's a fun one. And click on done. And now this is my shape. Okay, so if I go to stroke path and I make that bigger, you can see that is the shape that my brush is going to paint in. Great fun. So now I want to go to color dynamics. This happens to be my favorite all-time function of Procreate. Now the one I tend to go by most is color pressure, which means that as I ease or increase the pressure with my pencil, the colour of my brushstroke is going to change. So my hue is going to change completely, saturation possibly, brightness a little bit, secondary colour, yeah, I'll go for that. Now if I click on my drawing pad here, I can clear the drawing pad, but I can apply a different colour to it. So I'm going to apply a blue and then clear it. And now you can see what happens when I use my brush. Now if I go to the stroke path and decrease the spacing, you can see what I'm going to get. So I now have a stroke, a smooth stroke that changes colour with the pressure of my brush. So when it comes to the colour dynamics, I can also change it for when the stamp is jittered, if I have used those particular settings in the brush setup. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire load of things here, because the best way for you to learn it is to play. All you need to know is that it is there. Once you have finished and you've got a stroke that you think, oh, that's really great, I want to keep that, you can click on the About This brush and you can tell it who's made it, and you can save your brush. You can see your properties of your brush here. Minimum size and maximum size is always a good one to play with, and your opacity, if you want it to fade off, is also another one. But then you can say, right, okay, I'm done now, and you can name your brush as well, and then you'll be able to use it. So that is the one that I just created. Isn't that fun? Colour mixing without having to do any extra work. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just enthusiastic about this thing. I love it. I can spend hours playing with brush making, and I frequently do. So that is the difference between Procreate and the app I showed before, which is Concepts. They're both great apps. They just do slightly different things, so it depends on what you fancy. Now, from a cost point of view, Procreate is cheaper. Whatever you make in Procreate, you will have to trace. In Concepts, you have a choice. You can export in an SVG, and you can make it a cut line, and that will be it. In Procreate, you do have to trace. But having said that, as long as you are using pretty strong colours, then tracing isn't really a problem. And it definitely helps if you want to add an infill of colour or effect into an object which has a definite edge to it. It's just a question of choice. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.